Hello and welcome. My name is Grace Riley, and we are at the Post-Roe America Conference for the Institute for Faith and Freedom. Mikayla Covington joins me right now, and she is the Director of the International Operations at the Promise of Life Network, which is a medical pregnancy network with physical offices that serve 5 counties in western Pennsylvania and an international chat line that has over 15,000 women from 63 countries. So Mikayla does really incredible work, and she's also earning her PhD at Duquesne, I believe it is, and she graduated from Geneva College. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Grace. It's a real pleasure to be here.
So just to start, can you tell us a bit about your story and your background and how you ended up in the position you did at the Promises of Life Network?
Sure. So when I initially started at Promise of Life Network, it was about 5 years ago now. And I was initially hired as the Healthy Relationship Today coordinator. So as a medical pregnancy office, we offer kind of like the standard services you would expect at a crisis pregnancy center. So we offer ultrasounds, pregnancy tests. We have a parenting program that serves families that need educational support for their kids, as well as material support like diapers, formula, things like that. But we also have a department called Healthy Relationships Today that is actually abstinence education. So here in Pennsylvania, believe it or not, it's still required by the state for abstinence to be taught in schools. And we take advantage of that. And we've found that a lot of the public schools don't want to teach abstinence. And that's okay because we'll go in and teach it for them. And so I was hired to go into the public school systems, usually in either a health class or like a family consumer science class. And we would do like a 3 to 4 day seminar on abstinence-based education and what it means to have healthy relationships.
And I think what you just noted there is something that's so crazy, to me at least, that public schools don't want to teach abstinence anymore. And this is something I experienced in high school, where now they've shifted to basically promoting having sex and saying that, well, you can always get an abortion or use birth control, use condoms, that sort of thing. But what used to be taught was abstinence, and the fact that we've shifted away from that so much, I think says a lot. And it's really great that you're doing that work, and I hope that across the country more people step into those roles, because that's something that's so important.
Yeah, it's definitely, abortion is a cultural problem, and as we know, little kids are the next generation, and what we instill in them is what they're going to take with them. So that's how I got started. And then, of course, 2020 happened, and the schools shut down, so I was kind of at home figuring out what to do. And we ended up launching at the same time. We were concerned about the at-home abortion pill in the States. So this is, late 2019, early 2020. And we noticed that it was becoming more and more of a concern. So we launched a website called athomeabortionfacts.com. And as you do, we made a corresponding Facebook page just so that no one would steal the super creative name we had come up with. Yeah. And the day that Facebook page launched, a woman from South Africa messaged the Facebook page and said, "I want to do an abortion at home." And we were like, that is the exact opposite of what this page is about. And so we were kind of panicking, trying to find a pregnancy center to refer her to. And we kind of got her settled, talked to her, explained the dangers, and that was that. And over the next couple of weeks, clients would kind of trickle in, one here, one there. And as the months went by, now we're in the thick of the pandemic, we would get a couple of clients a week messaging this Facebook page. And our web developer, who also runs our social media, was just kind of handling the requests as they came in. And then in November of 2020, over 700 women messaged the Facebook page in 1 month.
Wow.
Seeking abortions at home. And they were coming from all over the place, mostly African countries. And so we realized, okay, this is a thing, this is happening, we've got to figure this out. And so I kind of shifted out of the abstinence education department, and they hired someone to replace my position there, and I became the director of international operations. And that chat line now sees hundreds of clients every single month.
Wow.
March of 2023, so just last month, we talked to over 900 clients in 1
Wow.
month. And we've now, I know when I wrote that intro, we were at 15,000 something clients. Well, now we're at 18,000 clients.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's actually 70 countries now.
Wow.
So that's just the sheer volume of women that we're talking to on this chat line.
Well, that's absolutely incredible, and that's one of the most encouraging things I think I've heard throughout the entirety of the conference. because it's just really amazing to see how God used you, and you obviously started this, and at first we're a little alarmed that people were reaching out to you for abortions, but as I'm sure you've seen, it turns out that that's exactly what was needed, and that's exactly what was needed to get people to engage with you, and give you kind of the position and the voice to be able to really cause change and to really impact and help these women.
Yeah, and we're noticing, we follow up with every single client we talk to, and right now we're sitting at about an 84% of our clients choosing life on the chat line.
Wow.
So that's literally tens of thousands of babies at this point.
That's absolutely incredible. Praise God. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so great.
That's so amazing. So I would say everyone that's listening should definitely check out and see how they can support you guys. Can you just explain how people can support you?
Sure. So I always encourage people to reach out to their local pregnancy center. If you're in Western Pennsylvania, Slippery Rock, Newcastle, Butler County, that's us. So you can reach out to us at Promise of Life Network. But we always want to encourage them to get involved locally.
And that certainly is definitely needed everywhere.
Absolutely.
It's an all hands on deck sort of thing.
It is all hands on deck. The chat line is actually run almost entirely by volunteers. So we have like 17 or 18 volunteers now that take shifts, hourly shifts, manning this chat line. And so people can volunteer if you're interested in kind of being on the front lines and talking with women in other countries who are experiencing an unplanned pregnancy and who are really in some situations that you and I could only ever dream of. Like, I mean, some of these situations are truly nightmares. But we have volunteers on the chat line, so if they're interested in doing that, they can reach out to Promise of Life Network and specifically say, hey, I'm interested in the chat line. What can I do to help?
Yeah, that's really amazing. So just for people at home who maybe are hearing this and want to reach out locally or want to try to on their own talk to people who maybe, or talk to women who are in this sort of situation where they don't really know who to turn to, what are some tactics you use, or what's some advice that you have for people in talking to women who are in these situations, and how can we as pro-life people point them in the direction of life and help them?
Sure. So I think one of the big things, and this is something I always tell my volunteers, is to listen first. Especially the clients that are on this chat line that are reaching out to us, they are going through it. And sometimes they just need someone to listen. And they might come on and say, I'm wanting an abortion, and the first question we always ask is, can you tell me about your situation? What's going on? What makes you consider abortion an option? And listen to them and the story that they share. And sometimes that story is very relatable, and it's something we might expect here in the States. I wasn't planning this, I'm stressed out, my boyfriend doesn't want it. Sometimes those situations reveal family abuse. We deal with rape victims on the regular, and these women are just needing someone to listen. And we found that opening that door and allowing them to have that communication with us is the first step in, one, for them trusting us, right? We need them to trust our opinions and the information that we give them, and that's a way to build it. But a lot of the times they just need someone to talk to you and to feel seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the patterns I think in myself talking to people is that we really need to focus on listening and make sure that we're doing that. And in order to come alongside women who are in this situation, that's the only way we can do it, by listening and truly living out the coming alongside.
Absolutely.
And that's really the only way it's going to be successful, because obviously we see a lot with the debate of pro-choice, pro-life, but that sort of debate back and forth isn't really going to help someone who's in a bad situation. We really need to come alongside them in that case. And just to talk about what you're going to be speaking about here a little bit, can you kind of explain and speak on how these chat lines have opened the doors to more at-home abortions?
Sure. So when we started this chat line, which was kind of by accident, we didn't mean to start it, but it's here now.
And a blessing.
And a huge blessing. We're so incredibly blessed. But one of the things that we were kind of asking ourselves is why? Like, why is a pregnancy center in Western Pennsylvania being blessed with 17,000 clients, mostly from Africa? What is God doing here? And then June of 2022 happened, and it kind of became clear that, as the Dobbs decision came down and Roe v. Wade was overturned, we noticed that the at-home abortion is going to be something that we face in America. It was already something that was on the rise. Over half of the abortions performed in the United States now are done chemically through abortion pills. But a lot of, especially rural pregnancy centers like we are, don't have a lot of experience dealing with that. And the chat line has given us experience working with women who are trying to do abortions at home, whether it's through like traditional pill methods, or most of my clients are trying DIY methods, herbal supplements. I mean, I've heard it all. Unripe papaya. I mean, just some of the strangest things that we kind of anticipate dealing with here in the United States. And it also highlights the difference in a traditionally post-abortive woman and an immediately post-abortive woman. So a traditionally post-abortive woman, you're talking about someone who their abortion experience is in the past. It might be weeks, it might be months, a lot of the times it's years, and counseling is happening or needs to happen. And a lot of times a traditional post-abortive woman had an abortion experience in a clinic. So either she had a surgical abortion at Planned Parenthood, or she went to an abortion clinic like Planned Parenthood to get those abortion pills and take them there. An immediately post-abortive woman is someone who is actively experiencing an abortion. And a lot of times clients will message us and say, hey, I just took 8 Cytotec pills, which is the second pill in an abortion pill process. And they're actively experiencing abortion symptoms. And dealing with a woman who's going through that is very different than talking to a traditionally post-abortive woman. And it's given us the opportunity to kind of figure out those nuances and help us equip not only our staff but other pregnancy centers and how to handle these women. And we've actually been blessed with the opportunity to train other pregnancy centers in at-home abortions and kind of what those procedures can look like so that they can know how to handle what we kind of see on the horizon.
Yeah, and that's really important work, because what you're mentioning is something that is not just kind of, oh, well, they're taking some pills and it's going away. That's not what's happening at all. It's actually a really traumatizing thing, the effects that abortion pills have, and it's a graphic traumatizing thing, and it has a lot of negative physical effects on women. In a lot of cases, they may see their baby, which ends up being flushed down the toilet. So these are women who are really, really needing help. And to come alongside them at that time and be able to be that voice that's helping them is so powerful.
Absolutely. And these women are taking pills. Here in the States now, a recent ruling has just deemed the abortion pill illegal after 7 weeks gestation. That just happened this week out of Texas. But overseas, we're seeing women taking these pills well into their 7th and 8th month of pregnancy. And so at that point, we're having to tell them, listen, what you are about to experience is not an abortion. You're going into premature labor. And we have to explain that there's a very good chance that your baby might be born alive and you are going to be legally responsible for this life. And hopefully that's not something we deal with in the States, but I know that pregnancy centers have had to deal with these women who are giving birth by themselves at home and now have fetal remains or a live baby to deal with.
Yeah, and that's something that's so heartbreaking. And along with coming alongside women who are in need, working on our culture where it is right now to try to make abortion unthinkable is also a really important thing to do. So do you have any advice for people on how they can communicate with others in their lives about making abortion unthinkable and sharing the message of life so that we don't get to these points?
Sure. We are, the saying at work is we're pro-life from womb to tomb. And we think that we need to have not just, hey, we're pro-life, don't do abortion, but we need to instill a culture of life in people. And that starts from a very early age. That starts, from childhood, the way that we talk about other human beings, the way that we talk about pregnancy, even if it is unplanned. Going into the schools, and a huge part of what I did as the Healthy Relationships Today coordinator is talk to these students not just about abstinence, but also about their worth as a human being, and saying, hey, you deserve better than these red flag relationships that you're in. You deserve better than to just be told that, well, you're expected to have sex in high school. We know you're going to do it anyway. And they want those high expectations. I found that high schoolers want you to have high expectations of them. And they feel really depressed when they kind of get the feeling that adults view them as just teenagers who are going to do it anyway. And so I think that really starting early and starting young and instilling a sense of worth into these little kids, and also recognizing human beings for what they are, which is image bearers of Jesus, I think is a really big deal. I mean, we're all God's children, and we are all made in his image, and I think forgetting that has definitely contributed to where we are now.
Yeah, and that's such wonderful advice that I think we can all take in some way in our own lives in trying to share that message and talk to the people who are around us, especially the young people who are growing up surrounded largely by the opposite of what you're explaining, surrounded by people who are telling them that they don't have that worth that God's given them, and that are sharing the pro-abortion message. So they're surrounded largely by a secular message, a secular culture. So they especially need to hear this voice and need to hear this message.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's been a real pleasure.
For more information on the Institute for Faith and Freedom, visit faithandfreedom.com.